somebody who they've been having some issues, and so they want to figure out what's going on. They go, they're tested, they get the diagnosis, and initially, I'm thinking there could be disbelief, fear, anger, shock, denial, all sorts of things could go on. How do you walk somebody from that point? What are the next steps to get to that point where they're able to start processing it, putting together a meaningful, purposeful, like you mentioned, story?
Yeah.
How do you get from there to that point where you're okay with it and you're embracing it, you're finding value in it, and maybe even able to share that value with other people and help enhance their journey?
Sure. Well, as you can imagine, it's a personal process, and it's often a slow process.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing to remember with a diagnosis like Alzheimer's disease is those who are diagnosed and their care partners and their family begin the grieving process. It is a process of grief.
Yeah.
All of those stages of grief that we often think about only apply to when we lose a loved one. Those apply to this situation, and so you mentioned some of those stages, that it's first it's shock and disbelief. How could this be happening to me? A lot of times we see denial, and we see that people can get stuck in denial for a long time. And then, anger, and then, and moving across that spectrum. And so one of the things that we try to do when working with families is to really assess where they are in that journey. The challenging thing is sometimes that the caregiver and the individual living with Alzheimer's are not always in the same place on that continuum at the same time.
Right.
And so what we try to do is really identify where each person is and at that moment, and what is the best next step for them. So for example, you could have a caregiver and a person living with a diagnosis walk in the door. The caregiver is ready to kind of learn about the disease and really get connected to other people, but their loved one with Alzheimer's is in denial. And I've seen it just as often vice versa, where the caregiver is really in denial, and the person living with Alzheimer's is ready to go. So we really have to help people identify individually where they are, and then have a next step that meets that individual's need at that moment. Sometimes what especially when we see folks who are in denial or who maybe just don't want to deal with it, right? They just don't want to meet people. They don't want to acknowledge it. They may understand they have a diagnosis, but they just are going to do it on their own, Right. What we often do is kind of encourage them to, take a baby step, like attend a class, or maybe it's one of our social engagement programs, while the caregiver their next step may be more appropriate to go right into a support group. And so if we help people to kind of take those gradual steps, we can help them develop kind of a feeling of safety, a feeling that, a feeling of normalization. And I think that's what that community, if they meet others and form community, they see there are other people just like them.
Yeah.
They begin to talk about their experiences and they connect. Oh, I had that. Oh, yeah, the same thing happened to us. Or, yeah, that. Oh, I'm so glad you said that because that really, really angered me too. Or and often over time, then you see people progress then and the involvement in kind of the movement of realizing their own purpose in the process. Some people move through that. You'll see some people that walk through the door who are just ready to go. Like they want to learn.
Yeah.
They want to take the bull by the horns and get their plan ready and then figure out how they're going to be a part of what we do. And then you have other people that never get beyond the denial. And it's really such a personal journey, right? It's such a personal journey for people. And our job is really just to meet them where they are, and be to them what they need us to be.
That's great. Now, along those lines, you mentioned a 24-hour hotline, and I
Mhm.
think for the folks who have been watching on video on the Facebook page,
Yeah.
Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd, they're seeing the websites and,
Yeah.
the numbers. But for those who are going to be listening in via the audio, what is that 24-hour hotline
Yes.
number?
So this is the Alzheimer's Association 24/7 helpline, and you can reach it by dialing 1-800-272-3900. And when you call that number, a real live person picks up the phone.
Yay.
You don't have to
That's so
dial
rare.
through all these numbers to get to the right person. There's just a simple statement, and your the phone will ring to one of our care consultants at our contact center, and that helpline. I've been a social worker for 15 years, and I only knew about that helpline in the past few years.
Yeah.
And I wish I had known how useful it was, because I've worked with folks at our helpline who have assisted people not only with simple things like answering basic questions about the disease or signing them up for an education program, but who have sat in crisis with a family and called the police with them and made sure that somebody got to them to help them safely and got them in a safe place. So it doesn't matter what your issue is; they're trained to respond to any level of challenge. And I've heard countless stories of folks who have used that number who describe it as their lifeline or as their angel, or as their first step towards getting help.
I can imagine. And that, let me make sure I got it right. That was 1-800-272-3900.
You got it.
Okay, I'm going to give it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that some people are still hunting for a pencil and a paper, and they need that number. 1-800-272-3900.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now you've got a big event coming up here. I believe it's June 5th, right?
Yes.
Okay, you want to tell everyone about that?
It's the first annual Brain Summit. It's a research conference on Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's a conference that's really designed for the layperson when it comes to research, to really kind of translate what's going on with Alzheimer's disease and dementia from the lens of research and what progress that we're making. It'll feature not only kind of a global and national overview of the state of research, but also we are going to hear from a lot of our researchers right in Virginia who are local to our area, but then also statewide. So that's really exciting because it's a diverse agenda of sessions. So it's June 5th. Okay. It's at Christopher Newport University. It starts at 8 a.m., goes all day till 4:45
oh, wow. Okay.
p.m. There's a plenary address, but then also several breakout sessions throughout the day, and folks can pick and choose. So they can go to our website, our chapter website, www.alz.org/SEVA for Southeastern Virginia.
Okay, one more time.
Yep,
nice
www.alz.org/SEVA.
SEVA. Okay.
Yep. And you'll see right there on the first page a beautiful picture of the Brain Summit logo, the colorful brain, and you can click on that and get straight to the registration information. So I encourage folks to come. It includes breakfast. It includes lunch. It's going to really be a great day.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a great learning opportunity for anyone at any level, right, of caregiving or otherwise, to learn some more about what's going on.
Yeah, and we'll have sessions not just about like the science side of it, but we also have some sessions on for caregivers. What is going on with caregiver support? What is the research showing us about the interventions that are most useful for caregivers? What does good dementia care look like in long-term care communities? And then we'll hear a little bit about what we're learning about how to better diagnose the disease as well.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Okay, June 5th, Brain Summit, everybody. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Katie, for being here today and for everything that you kind of unpacked for us about that whole journey, the different steps, especially about the compassion towards those folks and kind of understanding it, just continuing to find the real person and the meaning in that journey and having that compassionate stance towards them, especially separating out from the behaviors as they progress as well, and then caring for themselves. So thank you, and thanks to all of you who tuned in today. I know you've learned something if you've joined us here. And thank you. And again, I'm Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching. This has been Katie McDonough with the Alzheimer's Association, the Southeastern Virginia chapter. And we thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time on Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd.